You are listening to the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now, WrestleBoss with Favi Chulo.
You know, I don't know why that throws me off all the time, because usually they go, if there's a little thing that goes in my headphones, goes, then it goes, you're listening to Blog Talk Radio, and then I hit the commercial button and the opening or whatever, and for some reason it's not doing that anymore. But anyways, for the people listening to us, you're here, you're at WrestleBoss with Favi Chulo. You can now check out WrestleBossLive.com if you want to check out the show right there. I'm telling you, man, it's been like crazy the last couple of weeks with people that want to come on the show and got a lot to talk about. And for some reason, the independent wrestling scene is just like on fire right now, because they got all these people coming out saying that they were getting harassed and just all this stuff that's going on. But with me today, as you remember, last week we had Rachel on, who was a Muay Thai fighter. But with me this week, I hate to say tryout because it just sounds so silly, like tryout. What are you trying out for? You're not doing anything physical. You're just kind of sitting in so we could check out the co-host. But with me today, somebody who I've known for quite some time, Jackie Cataline, Olympic wrestler who's been wrestling forever. I just got to let you guys know that right off the bat. But real quick, Jackie, how are you? How's everything going right about now?
Everything's going good. You know, I'm still training and as much as I can with everything going on.
Yeah, it's funny because I know you've been training over there at Millennia MMA off and on. Do you go there on the regular, or do you kind of go off and on, or how many? I mean, like, let's put it this way: are you an integral part of the mixed martial arts at Millennia MMA, or do you just go there to practice your wrestling, or how does that work?
I go there to practice both. I work a full-time job, so it's kind of when I can fit it into my schedule.
Right.
But yeah, I'm over there as often as I can be. Do
you work with Batiste at all?
I do not. I worked with Romy.
That's right, Romy Aram. It's funny because I've had a working relationship with them forever. And on my old show, I had Saad Awad on, who's a Bellator fighter, and I think he's since kind of moved gyms or whatever. But it's funny because I had him on, and we were talking about ground game and training and all that, and he goes, "Man, I got to tell you, Batiste is heavy now." He goes, and when I get caught on bottom, he goes, "That's why I'm in such good shape, because it takes so much to get out from on the bottom."
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, I'm not going to tell Batiste that or whatever, but that's what he said on the last show. But anyways, huge show today. I got former XPW commentator. His name as his commentator was Larry Rivera, but he's Patrick Hoed, who I've known for quite some time. And real quick, for the people that are listening to us here on WrestleBoss with Favi Chulo, I've told this man since it's got to be going on 20 years. I'm like, dude, he plays bass for a group called Brujeria, but I've had him on the radio show. I've worked for 4 different companies, and I've had him on each time because the dude is gold. I'm telling you, I go, dude, you got to quit. I know you love to play the bass, but this is your calling, bro. You got to get on the air. And he's like, oh, no, but I love to play the bass. But he's going to come. Hopefully he comes on. I've been texting that dude, and I haven't gotten anything back. So I'm hoping that he's good to go. We're going to get him on at about the 15-minute mark. And then at the 45-minute mark, we got Gustavo Lopez coming on. He had a huge fight. Not this last. It's a trip because UFC has been running shows like almost every weekend. You know, they're trying to get caught back up. And that's a good thing why I have Jackie on here, because I'm gonna talk to her a little bit about that when we have Gustavo on, and then I'm gonna talk to her a little about that after that, because so much went on in the last couple of UFC shows that they've had on this weekend. So I want to talk a little bit about tons of stuff. So we'll run some stuff like that by her too. But Gustavo Lopez took a fight on, it's funny because I thought it was 2 weeks notice. And then his jiu-jitsu coach, Casey Halstead, who I worked with a lot before he moved out to Vegas, said, nah, dude, 2 days. Try 2 days. I was like, damn. So he didn't, he came up a little bit short, but and the dude he fought was no joke. I'll butcher his name because it's a dude from Russia, but the dude he fought was no joke. And I mean, he was just, to me, he was like a 40-1 underdog, and I would have put money on him because I think he came that close. Luckily, I didn't because I don't have it. But anyways, he did really well, a lot better than I expected. So he's coming up at the 45-minute mark, and we'll talk to him about that. Now, before we get into that, and before we get into talking about Patrick Hoed, now that I have Jackie with me, we talk about this a lot, Jackie, since I've been doing radio and working for different companies and things of that nature. But, in this day and age, it would behoove you to stay within a certain amount of weight because, I'm talking 2 weeks. We're talking 2 days that this guy got called up. So you personally, with the wrestling, you've been cutting weight forever. Well, first of all, have you ever had to cut like an enormous amount of weight, like in a couple of days? Like what's the most you've had to cut, like let's say in a week?
I think I was in high school when I was doing that. Probably like 12 pounds in a week in high school. Yeah, I try and stay now, that I'm a little bit older and I'm a little bit wiser to the weight cutting game. I try and stay pretty close to my wrestling weight. That way I don't, have any issues getting down to the weight.
Because if you got to cut that much weight, that's going to make you, a lot more weak. But
yeah, you're completely drained. You have no energy to actually wrestle.
Yeah, you have nothing left because you've cut so much weight. But Chael Sonnen, I listen to a lot of podcasts at work. Well, until they took my headphones because I'm on a computer. And he would say, I don't understand why people do that. I would rather, let's say I fight at 155 and I'm at 165 and it's 2 days. He goes, I'd rather fight at 170 and say, hey, I'm going to fight at 170. I'm more comfortable. I have more strength or whatever, So to me, especially now in this day and age, you've got to stay within that weight. I worked for King of the Cage for 5 years, and I've seen a lot of, like, the behind the scenes, I like to say. And there's been so many, things happen. These fights, they used to book like 20 to 25 fights. And by the time you get through, people not making weight or they somehow travel, something come up, it's gone down to 12. I've done as little as 7 fights in a show. So if you're within your weight, guys have been getting title shots with just like that, with a week's notice or whatever. So if you're within that weight quarter, you can get a title shot, like that. And to have somebody like Gustavo on who had 2 days notice, I'm anxious to talk to him to see what that's like. So we'll talk to him a little bit about that. Now, Jackie, real quick before we get to Patrick Hoyt, did you get a chance to watch the fights this last weekend?
I watched a couple of them. For me, I like to watch people that I know. So I watched a few of the girls, a couple of the guy ones. So I have a little bit of what's going on with them.
I got to admit, Roxanne Modafferi against Lauren Murphy was a little disappointing. Yeah. That's one of the fights I was looking forward to. I've had Lauren Murphy on my other radio show before because when she was in The Ultimate Fighter, Eddie Alvarez was her coach, and she was a well-seasoned veteran. So she kind of didn't like to be told what to do. She said, "Hey, I didn't like the way this guy was." Yeah, she said, "I didn't like the way this guy was training," and so she wanted to do her own thing. And it I don't know if it kind of hurt her or made it seem a little bit different or whatever. So I was looking forward to that fight. Roxanne Modafferi is a hardcore jiu-jitsu person. You can't really say, well, this person's jiu-jitsu, this person's wrestling. You're supposed to be a mixed martial artist. So I thought for sure she was going to close the distance. Another thing I want to talk to you about is this cage is a lot smaller. So she was going to close the distance, get her to the ground, and maybe get her back and maybe choke her out. But it was just, I hate to say tip-tap affair because it just seemed like nobody really wanted to engage, Yeah. But I think that would have worked to her advantage. Have you? I know you haven't been watching as much, but Dana usually has a 30-foot cage. It's huge, and he's been using the 25-foot cage because it's smaller to fit in for the TV tapings or whatever that they're doing since they don't have any audience. And I'm telling you, as you and I talk here, myself and Jackie Cataline, that cage makes a huge difference. The fight between Emmett and Burgos is already being nominated for Fight of the Year because you're right there. Now, you personally being as a wrestler, if you were to get in that cage, wouldn't that be the thing you would do since this is such a smaller cage and they can't run if you wrestle or you fought a boxer? You would try to close that distance and get them to the ground. So somebody like you would be like a huge advantage, right?
Right. I think so. As a wrestler, I'm going to try and take it to the ground regardless of the cage size. But yeah, I think the cage size definitely is makes a huge difference. So that 5 foot is, especially for those people that have been in the cage and they fight at the 30-foot cage,
Yeah, it's huge. Like I've said on this podcast, as well as my other ones, when you could turn your back and literally run from your opponent, that cage is too big.
Yeah.
And it's made a world. Yeah. But Dana don't care. He whatever he says goes. So he's like, yeah, we're going to Fight Island, and I'm going back to the 30-foot cage. So it's like, okay. But maybe, we'll see the difference, and he'll be like, man, it's a big difference. Maybe we'll go back to it. I don't know when you're in a stadium or whatever, if it makes a difference that you have to have a bigger cage so people can see. But just to me, it was great. I mean, it just really made a big difference. So we're going to expand on that a little bit more. I also want to talk to Jackie about another discussion that we've had many a times is your corner throwing in the towel. Because the first fight of the night, Austin Hubbard fought this kid. I got his name right here. We'll get to that. And he was just getting killed. He was just way out of his league. I mean, Austin Hubbard is no joke. I've had that dude on the show before too when he was first coming up. And I said, man, that's a big step up for this kid. And he had nothing, So at the end of the second round, he didn't want no more. And I in my mind was saying, man, please don't let him out for that third round because he's just getting hurt. It's just going to be worse. So he didn't want to fight anymore. And his corner was like, no, come on, bro, you got to get out there. You just get past this and blah, blah, blah. So he didn't want to go. So finally the referee came over and said, hey, you good? You want to go? And he looked at him and he said, hey, you had enough? And he was like, yeah, I had enough. So now everybody's labeling him a big wussy, saying, oh, you're such a punk and you quit, blah, 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 whatever. I'm gonna tell you what Dana said after at his post-fight press conference. But real quick before we have to go to commercial and get Patrick Holt in here, what do you think, Jackie? I mean, to me, there's no shame in quitting. He was just outclassed. The guy was just way too much for him. So I say, yeah, live to fight another day. If I was in the corner, I would have said, look, man, you're getting killed. Let's just pack it in, and we'll live to fight another day. There's nothing. Then at least they take the heat for it instead of him. So what do you think? Give us your thoughts on that.
I agree with you. I think that if the person fighting has just taken too many blows and they know their body. If they feel like they can't go on, absolutely stop it. And the way that I was raised, my dad doesn't let us quit. So for me to say that, that's pretty big. But yeah, I agree with the decision that he made. Yeah,
I mean, mentally too, it's got to kill you if you have to call your own fight. But anyways, we're going to talk a little bit more about that too. And when she mentions her dad, I literally grew up with him since I was like 13 years old. And he's the one who got me into wrestling and everything like that. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And it's funny too because I told my mom, hey, Jackie's going to be on the show with me. We're trying out some girls. I'm hoping, we can get her on as a co-host. And she goes, that Jackie, out of those Cataline kids, I knew she was going to be something because she just has that little gleam in her eye. What are you talking about? So there you go. You got one fan right there for sure. So anyways, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with Patrick Holt, talk a little XPW, and talk a little about playing the bass upright like the Jazz. But before we get into that, let's see what Denise Salgado has coming up for us this week on Lucha Central.
Hey everyone, it's Denise Salcedo here in Lucha Central, where they look at all of the great shows available this week on the Lucha Central Podcast Network. Monday, it's a brand new masked cast with Dos Hermanos Lucha. The brothers are back with their latest advice on how to build the ultimate Lucha Libre mask collection, including what Facebook groups can really help you up your game. Tuesday, it's Masks, Mats, and Mayhem, the show that brings you back into and behind the scenes of Lucha Underground. This week on the show, more behind-the-scenes secrets are revealed from two of the show's Day One luchadores. Plus, the gang discusses the current success of former Lucha Underground stars Karrion Kross and El Hijo del Fantasma, and takes a look back at Season 1, Episode 6. Plus, this Friday, look for a bonus episode of the MMM show focused on Pride Month, including a special interview with former Lucha Underground and current AEW star Sonny Kiss. Also on Tuesday, brand new series, WrestleBoss with Favi Chulo, debuts on its regular night with a live call-in show covering pro wrestling and MMA from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Pacific. Then, each Wednesday, the show will be available for download on podcast platforms. The first episode is up now and features interviews with former CMLL, Ring of Honor, and Lucha Underground star Ricky Reyes, Bellator fighter Rick Hahn, and Combate America SVP Mike Aframowitz. This week's guests will include former XPW and Wrestling Society X-Star and current owner and operator of the Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy, Joey Chaos. With SPW graduates in nearly every major promotion at this point, there is a lot to talk about. Don't miss WrestleBoss Live on Tuesday night and in podcast format on Wednesday. We've also got more live recordings for you on Wednesday as Spanish series La Mesa de los Márgaros brings you their unique style of news and comedy along with special guests. Watch as they record their episode on Facebook Live and then download the episode Thursdays. Also on Thursday, it's Straight Out of the Bodega with Papo Esco, with special guests, PWR Training Academy graduate and AEW star, Jungle Boy Jack Perry. Papo and Gabe talk with Jack about his training at the Academy, his time in the NorCal indie scene, and his signing with AEW. On Friday, we've got the #1 Lucha Libre show on the U.S. charts, Lucha Central Weekly, and the #1 show wrestling-related, period, on the Mexico iTunes wrestling charts, Lucha Central Weekly en Español. With Lucha Libre slowly returning to Mexico and shows this past weekend from both DTU and IWRG, plus luchadores all over WWE programming these days, we've got 2 packed shows for you. Be sure to subscribe and follow all of your favorite Lucha Central Network series on your favorite podcast platforms. And please be sure to give a rating and review to help more fans find the shows that you love. For now, this is Denise Salcedo signing off from Lucha Central Central. Have a great week.
Man, that's what I'm talking about. Lucha Central blowing it up. Sorry, Greg DeMarco, producer. I said Denise Delgado. As I was trying to say Salcedo and Delgado came out. So that's Denise Salcedo giving us the update and everything. She totally keeps everybody in the loop. But for the people listeners here, you're at WrestleBoss with Favi Chulo. I got Jackie Cataline with me. We're going to be calling Patrick Hood in about 2 seconds. But don't forget, if you want to call in, if you want to join with us, you got something to say about pro wrestling related or whatever, because it's been really, really crazy out there. Especially, God bless a man trying to do a show with no crowd or whatever, because a lot of times you feed off the crowd. But if you want to call in, you can call 323-870-3387. Again, that's 323-870-3387. I got to tell you, Jackie, I always give out that number, and once in a while it'll light up, and I get to talking, and by the time I look back at the board, they're gone. So I'm like, hey, if you're not going to answer, don't put out the number. I promise I'll try to get to you this time for sure. So let me give Patrick Hood a call, better known as Larry Rivera from XPW, but he was also around when I used to do something called Incredibly Strange Wrestling. So I'm going to talk to him a little bit about that. It says dial. What the heck's going on here? 3667.
Hello.
Hey, Patrick Hood, it's Fabiano live. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, brother. How are you?
Yes.
¿Qué pasó?
For some reason, I was like, man, I hope he picks up because he's such a busy man. But real quick, for the people listeners, you're here. You're at WrestleBoss with Favi Chulo. I got Jackie Cataline hanging with me today. We're going to talk a lot about stuff coming up. But on the line with me right now, let me tell you something. When because I've been doing this for quite some time, and I started with my friend, The Unholy, and the first person, when we moved to a different company, the first person we have to have on is Patrick Hood, because he is, I say this guy is gold on the mic. From saying Superboy is a miracle of modern science to the Cubanitos eating arroz con frijoles, everything like that. But before we get into this, first of all, Patrick, how are you, my friend? It's been so long since I talked to you. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing really well, Fabiano, despite the circumstances, the things going on in the world today. I'm just glad that I'm still around, and I'm even more glad that you're still around, brother, because we go back many years, and thank you for that intro, man. You know, those are great memories, good times, man. The indie scene here in this giant city of Los Angeles, you know.
Yes. Well, first of all, I didn't get to XPW. Patrick Larry Rivera was already gone because he moved on to play the bass for Brujeria, and they really started to get hot, so he had to leave and go do that. But you know, Kevin Kleinrock, I talk about James Brown being the hardest working man in music. Kevin Kleinrock has to be the hardest working man, period. Wrestling and radios and stuff like that. So real quick before we get into talking about what's been happening now, tell us a little bit about how did you even get to? I've heard you do XPW with Conan and the other color commentators that they had over there. How'd you get involved with XPW? They had to come looking for you because they know it's going to be.
Well, actually, the way I got involved with XPW was through Josh Lazy. Who at the time was working with Rob Black at Extreme Associates, and they just started putting XPW together. Kevin Kleinrock, involved from the ground floor, and I used to see Lazy at the Shrine, the Shrine Auditorium. They used to do these comic conventions every first Sunday of the month. And I was there with Eric Caden of Hollywood Book and Poster. We had tables. I would sell wrestling tapes. And Lazy came by, and he started telling me about XPW. And I had messed around with the Larry Rivera character, at some indie shows here. The Johnny Legend's Incredibly Strange Wrestling.
Oh yes.
He was cool enough to let me sit in with Danny Wolf and do my shtick, and I could tell it was kind of getting over with the crowd. So Lazy came by one day, says, "Yeah, we got this XPW. We're looking for announcers." I said, "Man, you know what? Let me put a tape together, and I'll send it to you." So I just got some match. I can't even remember what it was. Some Tiger Mask match, I think from New Japan, and I just did an overdub with Larry Rivera type announcing over it. Sent that to Lazy, and next thing you know is he calls me up a couple of days later, says, "Come in. Rob wants to meet you. Chris Kloss wants to meet you," and that was it. We were off to the races, man.
Yeah, it was gold. But real quick for the people that are listening to us here on WrestleBoss with Favi Chulo, it's hard for me to explain what Johnny Legend looked like, because when you look at him, he doesn't look like somebody who would put a wrestling promotion together, but the man was so knowledgeable on wrestling. But kind of explain what he's like, kind of like a pajama top wearing type of guy.
Well, yeah, no, well, he had his own band. He had a rockabilly band.
Yeah.
Johnny Legend, and he really had his thing going in the music deal, but he was a real fan from pro wrestling. He was going to the Olympic Auditorium in the mid '60s, with when Fred Blassie was a huge name, and he got involved with Freddie Blassie. He recorded the Pencil Neck Geek single, that you hear on the Dr. Demento show. To this day, you hear that song.
Yeah.
Johnny Legend was behind that. So he's been in the wrestling world for years and years and years. So his whole psychedelic, rockabilly, psychobilly visions kind of combined with the wrestling world and produced a unique product. If anybody ever saw the Incredibly Strange Wrestling up in San Francisco.
Oh, yes.
And a couple of shows down here in Hollywood at Moguls. I don't know if you ever went to any of those.
Oh, yes. I went to, well, that's when my partner, the Unholy, was wrestling.
Unholy, I would work a couple.
Ringo Ricardo.
Yeah, and they had all the great, burrito on a pole match.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff.
I wasn't wrestling. I had went with the Unholy to go check out the show. He was wrestling, and I couldn't stop laughing because Patrick Hoyt would go, hey, we're doing the burrito of death match, but be careful because it might be carnitas that would be too heavy and it might fall and make a splash. And I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? But it was a good idea because they would mix a band with 2 matches and then another band, and it really worked well, Keno.
Yeah, big time. And I remember there was one show at Moguls that was totally sold out. Chris Jericho was there. Yeah. And above everybody, the great late Chris Farley was there. And, double fisting, man. He had like 2 drinks in his hand at all times. But he was having the greatest time. So that's when it was getting really popular. And but Johnny Legend, man, he was the brains behind that operation.
And he was always real cool because he was doing them there, and then he introduced us, or I think it might have been Unholy, to Audra, and she started doing them at the Fillmore in San Francisco. So I got a lot of work.
And let's not forget, he was also responsible for bringing forth guys like Kid Chaos and the great Supreme. You know, that was that. In fact, that's how I met those guys. Was working the Incredibly Strange Wrestling shows here in Hollywood.
Yeah, so, me too. That's where I met them both also. Yeah. But let me tell you something. We would go work at the Fillmore out there in San Francisco, and Audra was the promotor. I think she wrestled as La Chichona or something like that.
La Chingona.
Yeah, La Chingona. Well, what happened was Unholy actually got a real job, and he couldn't make it out there. So he said, hey, can you take a couple of guys? We would usually take myself, him, Rosa Salvaje, and people like that. But when he couldn't make it, I took Superboy, Piloto Suicida, and Capitan Oro. And let me tell you something. They tore the roof off that place. I mean, they put on such a show that they wouldn't even let them in the back. I mean, and there must have been 1 million people there. It was packed. So that one right there drew. So the first time ever in my life that I got a bonus, Audra was like, man, these guys are awesome. Can you bring them back? Here's an extra 100. Take them out to eat or whatever. Of course, we didn't go eat. We went to the airport and came home and split the money. Sorry, Audra. But, I mean, it made a huge difference. And then that's when we had a little show over on Sunset in Hobart, and we met this guy named Frankie Hoyt. And he was an integral part of myself and the Unholy moving on to work for Tap Out and Sinister Radio, because he helped us a lot. You know, that's when Unholy was learning to work the boards and all that. And I thought, if there can be anybody as funny or crazier than Patrick Hoyt, is Frankie Hoyt. I mean, we had such a good time back in the day just doing the little radio show over there. We went over to AWS. I'm sorry, real quick for the people listening to us. You're here. You're at WrestleBoss with Favi Chulo. I got Jackie Cataline with me, Olympic wrestler. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But on the line with us right now, Patrick Hoyt, also known as Larry Rivera from the XPW days. And we're working a show in AWS at Frankenstein's, and you were doing the announcing, the actual announcing with the mic, announcing the wrestlers, and he was a little bit late, so everybody wrote out their cards of what they were gonna, where they're from and things like that. So he goes to announce us, and he looks at it and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, directamente de Marrano Beach en la ciudad de Pitbull," and he couldn't stop laughing. And I go, dude, what are you doing? Dude, Marrano Beach. You remember that day? Do you remember that one? That was hilarious. Yeah.
Marrano.
From Marrano Beach, but not to sound like that grizzled old man or whatever, but we had so much fun back then. Now it's kind of turned into a business. It's more like, it seems like more trying to make money and a lot of flips and stuff. And it kind of lost a little bit of the luster, because I just used to have so much fun just going and hanging out with people like Patrick Hoyt and all that. And I told him many a times, I go, dude, why? I know you love the bass and playing I said, but dude, if I was a multimillionaire, you would come work for me. I mean, because you just have, is it just for you, I know it's natural, but is it from just watching so much wrestling and watching all the old school stuff that you just bring that all to light when you were doing the color commentary for XPW?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, nothing. Some of my earliest memories as a kid involved, pro wrestling. So, growing up here in LA, we were fortunate enough to have a great, in the late '60s and early '70s, a great promotion. The Lopes. We had people like John Tolis and Fred Blassie. I can't tell you how good of a heel a guy John Tolis was, man. He was single-handedly responsible for turning on thousands of kids, I'm sure. He was so commanding, man, and it was so realistic the way he'd look at the camera and had that growl, that face. No one does that today. You don't get that vibe. That like, it's now or never. And it just great stuff. And the crowds back then were it was always packed. If you've been to the Olympic, it had two levels. The upper level was always filled up. I went to my first live match in 1975. It was, I believe May of 1975, and the main event was Greg Valentine and Victor Rivera in a cage, loser leaves town. Hollywood Blondes were on the bill too, and the co-main. Those guys, Buddy Roberts, who went on to be in the Freebirds, and those guys were such a great team, man. So smooth Gordman and Goliath back then, another great tag team.
And they would tell the original announcer, "No, we're not from Mexico. We're from New Mexico."
We're from New Mexico. We're from New Mexico, and Gordman in the middle of the ring with a headlock. Just to the orale guarachudos, and just loud, and everybody, and then the beer would fly, and
Not to sound like an old man, but it was 70. I think it was 75, 77 when I used to go, and it was Gordman and Goliath and the Texas Hangman and people. And my dad would be knocked out. He would be fast asleep, and he'd give us like $2. He'd give us like $2 for our chuchulucos, and $2, and you'd get peanuts and popcorn and a soda.
Oh yeah,
$2 would buy you for the whole night. No problem. And we were scared to death of Freddie Blassie because we thought that dude's a vampire, man. He's gonna bite us and we're gonna die.
He bites.
And they would light his car on fire if they would see which car was his. They lit it on fire.
He had major heat, Freddie Blassie. I mean, and then a little later on from there, you had guys, making their name, Chavo Guerrero and Roddy Piper. They both of those guys made their name here in LA at the Olympic.
Man,
great, just a great time, man. Unfortunately, it died out in '82. I think LaBelle just gave up. Vince was like Godzilla on the horizon. So you just see the writing on the wall. Say, all right, man.
Took over and couldn't compete with that. But so with all that being said, I know you got a lot going on with Brujeria and playing the bass and everything like that. So what does the future? The question that I'm trying to get to is there any possibility in the future that you might come back, even if it's for a one shot or whatever, to do some commentary? You'd be like, man, I put that on the back burner because I got so much going on. What's the future hold?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I just kind of got burned out on the biz, and I got kind of rubbing the wrong way with some personalities towards the end there, and I just say, man, this isn't, this ain't worth it. I just, go do something else. And like you say, Brujeria was we just started playing live right around that time. And 2000 first live show was in 2003. So after making records since 1990, we didn't play the first live show till 2003. So and then so I got involved in that. Was doing that, real busy doing that, and then finally in 2014, I got an opportunity to do something else. So I got a job with the city of LA. So that's what I'm doing now. So I don't tour with Brujeria anymore. I haven't been doing live shows with Brujeria since 2014, but I'm still involved with recording and producing. In fact, any day now you should be hearing the debut of the new Brujeria single, COVID 666.
Oh, nice. That's, it's funny that you say that, because we talk about the new generation now. I have a nephew. His name is Mason, and he loves wrestling. He just turned 8. It's all he talks about: wrestling this, wrestling that. But his favorite wrestler is Bestia, and Bestia has a shirt that says Bestia 666, and his father's Damian 666. So when we took him to go see Santa Claus, I said, "Hey, what are you going to tell me you want for Christmas?" "Oh, I'm going to tell him I want a Bestia 666 shirt." I go, no. I go, "No, don't say it." I said, "Please, don't go up there and say that." He goes, "But that's what I want." I'll get it for you. I said, "Santa don't like that. I'll get it for you." So that's what I had to get him, because I didn't want him to say that to Santa. But it's little things like that for the new generation to come up, and it's just funny or whatever. But I got to tell you, just to get Patrick Howitt on here and talk a little bit about the old days, because we had so much fun back then. I'm going to do a quick service announcement real quick, Patrick, so hang on real quick.
Do it.
Kevin Kleinrock, let's put something together. One last show real quick. Get Patrick Howitt over there for color commentary. It'll be gold, bro. You can't go wrong. All right, just want to put that out there real quick. Anyways, Patrick, hey, for the people listening to us, if you want to check out Patrick Howitt, you just put Pat Howitt in your little search engine on Facebook. You got any other social media for yourself or Brujeria?
No, that's it. I don't do the Twitter. I don't do the Instagram. It's too much work, man. I'd rather devote that time to making music and
just relax.
And watching I watch the network now, man. They got all the Mid Atlantic and the Mid South and the World Class on there. So
that is.
I just wish they'd throw some Florida on there, Florida Championship Wrestling. That'd be nice,
man. Awesome. That would be awesome. That's the only, well, I won't say the only reason, but that's a big reason why I get it to watch it. Well, let me put this out there to you. The Unholy actually got a real job, and he got promoted, and he ended up buying a real nice house in Hemet. Got a real nice pool and all this stuff.
Good for him, man.
I will come and get you, Frankie, whoever, and just have a big party over there, and just one last big hurrah before, because dude, I'm up there in age, man. I both had both hips replaced, so I don't got much left. So I want to go over there and just party one time with you guys before we get it. So
Chico, you're gonna be around. No digas eso, man. You're gonna.
Hey, I'll definitely be in touch. If I call him today and say he'll go bring him over, I'll go get him or whatever. So we'll definitely pick you up. Hey, for the people listening to us, Patrick Howitt, I'm telling you, man, there's not very. I mean, I do respect a few people in this business, but there's nobody I respect more than Patrick Howitt. I mean, that guy is just, to me, who's been in the business for a long time, gold, man. I mean, everything, he commentates or whatever. It's just great. So, all right, Patrick, I'm gonna call you, man. I'm gonna call you so we can go down.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Fabiano. I appreciate it. Say hello to all the fans out there. Keep listening, keep supporting, especially now during these times. So we're all in it together, man. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I appreciate you coming on, and I'll definitely be in touch. For the people listeners, we'll be right back after this. Talk to Jackie a little bit more. Check out Patrick Howitt when you get a chance. All right, my friend, I'll get with you.
Okay, Jackie, see you. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Great talking to you.
If you're listening to this and you haven't visited luchacentral.com, it's time to do it. luchacentral.com is the online home for Lucha Libre, where you can get all of the top news in English and in Spanish. Find the best curated video content and original content not seen anywhere else. Find when Lucha Libre events would be happening in your area. Find photo galleries from top photographers covering Lucha Libre around the world. From weekly polls to annual awards. Seen and read by top executives in all of the major Lucha Libre promotions across the globe. And on top of that, it's free. LuchaCentral.com, your centralized place for all.
Lucha-Masks.com by Pro Wrestling Revolution, bringing you, in partnership with Mask Republic, the Lucha Brothers, as well as Japanese legend Ultimo Dragon, Go to lucha-masks.com and fight Lucha Strong with masks from your favorite lucha legends and Pro Wrestling Revolution luchadores. Stay safe in style and represent your favorite luchador. Get yours now at lucha-masks.com, powered by Pro Wrestling Revolution.
You are listening to the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now, WrestleBoss with Favi Chulo.
Man, that Patrick Howard brings back a lot of memories. It's awesome. But for the people that are listening to us, you're here. You're at WrestleBoss with Favi Chulo. Got Jackie Cataline with me, talking a little bit about the old days of pro wrestling. And, you know, Jackie, it not that it's funny. I don't know, for some reason I always say it's funny. But back in the day when your dad and I were hanging out, and then we kind of went our separate ways, and when he came back and had the dojo over there in Lakewood, that was right over there off of like Los Coyotes and Palo Verde or something like that, not too far from the school. He's the one who told me, he said, look, man, if you're going to be doing this pro wrestling and all this stuff, you need to learn to defend yourself. Get your buns in here and train with us, you know, because, you know, you never know what's going to happen, you know, in the ring, especially traveling and all that stuff. So we did. So we used to come after the Kajukembo classes and everything were over and go down there and train on the mats. And he would say, hey, you take a bump on this mat, it's going to be nothing when you're in the ring. And I hate to say, man, he was spot on, but he was spot on. I mean, it was like, well, taking the bumps in there and getting twisted up and everything like that. When we got to the pro wrestling, it was, you know, I'm not going to say easy, but it was just such a smoother ride, you know, when we were out there. And, you know, well, first of all, Sergio and I, my partner, the Unholy, were Mexican. So we're always eating. And he goes, you gotta put those tacos down, dude. You gotta come in here and train. So we were trained and actually got us in shape, you know, to do what we were doing. Now, Jackie was always there. She was wrestling. She was, I think you were just about to start Milliken high or whatever. I think you're still in junior high or whatever. And she was constantly wrestling. So it was just in the blood, you know. So with that being said, now that, you know, a little bit older, I know you've been working hopefully to get to the Olympics, because I know that everything's been pushed back because of this COVID and everything, you know, that's going on with that. So my question to you, I had Rachel Ann with me on last time, and she's got a specific look that when we look for people to bring into pro wrestling, I see Jackie and I just see killer. You know what I mean? I'm thinking, man, if she would get into the pro wrestling game, we can make money. I mean, well, not now because of all the COVID and everything like that. So this is the question I have to you. When I approach people, because I see them and I say, hey, man, you know, you can make some money in pro wrestling. I have a lot of people that go, man, get away from me with that fake crap or whatever. The reason that makes me mad is because it's not. They don't understand how much you have to train and what you have to go through to get to it. But when you see the silly stuff like on WWE where they're doing silly stuff and out by the pool and throwing food or whatever, that's what gives it that rep. That's why I like Japanese wrestling or lucha libre, because they do have to do a few things to draw the people in, but not on a silly scale. In Japan, it's like a sport. You know, it's on the news, it's in the newspapers, you know. So would you ever, in your fondest, wildest dreams or whatever, even consider trying pro wrestling?
I mean, obviously my options are open. My goal right now is to make the Olympic team.
Right.
When I do that, a lot of doors are going to open for me. If that's MMA, if that's pro wrestling, if that's, you know, being an electrician, whatever it is, you know, I'll decide after I get to the one goal I'm trying to get to.
Right. Well, you know, now, because I've had Seth Daniels on here. Seth Daniels runs Fight to Win, which is a I don't want to say grappling tournament, because he does jiu-jitsu in the gi, submission only, without the gi. You know, when you take the gi off, it's grappling, you know, and even Eddie Bravo, when he was doing the Eddie Bravo Invitational, we talked a lot about it. And he said, you know, when I get these girls in here, he goes, they draw money because people want to see, because they have no filter. They just go for it. They don't go, well, this guy's versed in leg lock, so I'm going to try to avoid this, and I'm going to try to avoid the takedown. He goes, the girls, they just go at it. They don't worry so much about what the other girl's going to do. They worry about what they're going to do. You know, so What about that after the Olympics? There's now the girls, and, you know, it's a big controversy. We'll talk a little bit about that too after Gustavo comes on, but that's a big thing too. They're making money. Eddie Bravo Invitational, we're talking $20,000. Seth Daniels is one of the guys that will make sure you get paid. So I had Casey Halstead on here, who's the jiu-jitsu coach for Gustavo, and he said nowadays you can make money doing jiu-jitsu and open your own school. So of course, Olympics is right there. That's exactly what you're focused on, what you're going to. But then any consideration for that too? I mean, it's out there too. Girls are actually starting to hit these grappling tournaments and make some money.
Yeah, I mean, it's always an option. I've trained, obviously, with my dad since I was 5 years old in martial arts, in wrestling, so I have the background. Obviously, I would need to train more. So, I mean, of course, it's always an option to do, something other than wrestling.
Yeah. Well, like I said, especially, just being an Olympic contender. I mean, just to be doing that, of course, the goal is to win the gold, but just to get out there. Look at Henry Cejudo. He won the gold, and I mean, the thing about him is he started when he first started getting into the UFC, he kind of left that back, and he started trying to stand up. Once he realized that, hey man, if I close this distance and get him to the ground, I'm gonna and it really made a big turn for him. Same thing with Ronda. When she was first coming in, she used her judo. She get him up against the cage, dig those hips in, boom, take him over, and it really, made a big difference. So, like you said, once you get to the Olympics and compete and everything, the doors are going to be open. So would that interest you too? Maybe if later on down the line, open up your own place, you could teach a combination of wrestling or whatever. I mean, there's so much going on right now. It's kind of hard to think about. But, I mean, would that be in consideration as well? So especially with your dad, he knows the business, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Both mom and dad.
Yes. Well, they would be like your base to help you to get going on that. But
absolutely.
I think especially nowadays, like I've had Sarah McMahon on here, and she talked about that. They did something called Quintet out there in Japan, and she competed in that, and she said that was great. That they, a great place to compete. And you went to Japan, it was so different out there. So I think she was silver medalist in wrestling. Can't remember for sure.
Yeah,
but
she was her silver.
Yeah, she's and so she's considering that too. Of course, she's moving onward and upward. And of course, I think her last two opponents have backed out because of injuries or whatever. So she's waiting for a fight, but she's one person who always stays ready too. So anyways, I'm just putting that out there because there's the possibilities for women are so endless now that like it really wasn't before, and it is now. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I got to get to Gustavo. So I'm going to take a quick break. I promise this break's going to be quick. We'll come back. We'll talk to Gustavo Lopez.
Why should you visit thechairshot.com? Thechairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
If you're listening to this and you haven't visited luchacentral.com, it's time to do it. LuchaCentral.com is the online home for Lucha Libre, where you can get all of the top news in English and in Spanish. Find the best curated video content and original content not seen anywhere else. Find when Lucha Libre events would be happening in your area. Find photo galleries from top photographers covering Lucha Libre around the world. From weekly polls to annual awards. Seen and read by top executives in all of the major Lucha Libre promotions across the globe. And on top of that, it's free. LuchaCentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre.
Yeah, Denise Salcedo, they're letting us know what's happening. I butchered her name at the beginning, so hopefully our producer extraordinaire, Greg DeMarco, will hook that up. But here at WrestleBoss with Favi Chulo, I got Jackie Cataline with me talking a little bit about the options that are actually out there now for women, to open up their own school and to do so much more in the world of grappling. So real quick, we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but I got to get to Gustavo because I got to talk to him about training and taking that last minute fight in the UFC. When they come a calling, man, you got to answer that door.
Yeah, definitely.
Hello?
Yeah. Hey, Gustavo, it's Fabiano. You're live on WrestleBoss. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
It's beautiful. For the people listening to us, you're here. You're at WrestleBoss with Favi Chulo. I got Jackie Cataline with me. Don't forget, you can always check out Lucha Central. Got so much good stuff on there. As well as now, you can check out WrestleBossLive.com if you want to check out the show on there. But with us on the line right now, somebody, as soon as I saw this fight, and I saw Casey Halstead was in his corner, I said, I got to get this guy on, man. I mean, it takes a lot to impress me. But and he certainly did. Gustavo, we're going to talk a little bit about training and all that stuff and getting prepared for it. But I got to tell you, man, I was watching that fight. And, we had a house full of people, so we were making tacos de carnitas and all that stuff. And we were watching the fight.
There we go.
And I thought it was 2 weeks' notice. So I was saying, oh, man, this guy took the fight on 2 weeks' notice. And then Casey texts me, and he goes, no, dude, 2 days' notice. And I went, oh, my God.
Actually, the fight took 2 days. But when I got the call, I had 20 hours. I got called at 12 a.m. I had to weigh in the next morning at 10 a.m. Well, at 9 a.m. And I was like 150. I was 157 when I got the call.
Jeez. Man.
And I was expecting to go down 35. So I was planning on cutting 23 pounds. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, did you get the call to go into the UFC? I didn't care who it was. It could have been anybody. Could have been anybody at any weight. I was going in there to fight. Well, and then we just cut it.
Who calls you? Is it Sean Shelby, or who calls you and says, "Hey, man, we got a fight for you"?
My manager. My manager's Rubenstein Entertainment. Daniel Rubenstein is my manager. He's connected with with everybody. Manager doing manager things. Luckily, friends with Shelby, so.
Yeah.
We've been bugging him for a while. We're like, hey.
Hey, does he call you and go,
FaceTime me?
He goes, hey, Gustavo,
I
got good news and I got bad news. He goes, good news is I got you into the UFC. The bad news is you only got, 20 hours to cut X amount of pounds. You're just so, your adrenaline is so high, do you just go, hey, let's do it?
And the answer was yes immediately. It wasn't a question. How much weight I was and and who the opponent wasn't even a concern. The overall goal is to make it into the UFC, be dominant, and then eventually become a world champion. So, we got the first step out of the way. We're in the UFC now. Tough loss, but I felt everybody told me it was a good fight.
No, I'm here to tell you, man. It's funny because Ray Borg, when I was working for King of the Cage, when we would go out there to New Mexico and stuff like that, he was the one that would pick us up at the hotel, and so I got to know him pretty well. So I was like, I was bummed that he pulled out, whatever. But then I saw Gustavo. And I know he had fought at Combate Americas, because I try to keep up as much as possible. And then when I saw Casey was one of his coaches, I said, man, this guy, he's going to have ground game. This guy better watch. And the guy you fought, it's hard for me to pronounce his name, Deshevaleshi or whatever.
He's no joke.
Yeah, so I said, man, that's a big step up for Gustavo. So real quick, I'll take us through the fight. To me, this is what I saw. You were switching it up, and he was getting a little bit confused because he started, he was wanting to stand up, but then he started taking you down because he saw the switch up. It looked to me like he was waiting for you to turn southpaw, and then he would shoot. But when he gets you on the ground, you had the ground game to work and work back up to your feet. And I think he thought, God dang, whatever I do, this guy's the real deal or whatever. So take us through that fight. Is that kind of how it went? You could tell he was kind of like looking for that shot, and then you would just work from there. Take us through that fight.
I feel like when we were trying to we were just fighting. We couldn't really do what's the game plan? There wasn't no game plan. We were gonna bite down on our mouthpiece and we're gonna throw and we're gonna fight.
Yeah.
As far as I know, I still haven't taken the time to sat down and watch the fight, but I was told that I was hitting him in the first round, damaging him a little bit too much. Then he decided to take me down, and it was just he had great takedown. That overhand with the pick. It's you got to be careful about covering up, and he comes in with his blast double through there. But and my fault was I was so reliant on the guillotine to catch him that I should have just drove into him and fucking fought the takedown. But I was right away go for the guillotine. So little mistakes on my part, but to tell you the truth, I learned so much from this fight. I didn't take this as a loss. I took it as a learning experience. It opened up, a lot of my games that I need to improve on. So all I'm going to do is just get better, and, we're going to get a couple more wins. Fight whoever we're going to fight. We're going to fight a couple more times, and then we're going to, we'll run it back. And then with me in a full camp, it's a different story.
Oh, yeah.
I've taken fights. When I fought for Combate Americas, I took the world title fight on a one-day notice and had a super split close decision without die. And then we fought again a couple months later with a full camp, and I knocked him out in the first round.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a different story when you're like, yeah.
Yeah, but you could tell. Well, I think it was the second round. You caught him with like an overhand right or whatever and shook him, and you could kind of see he's like, God dang it! And then he immediately, went for the takedown like right after close the distance. But when you hit him in that second round, everybody that was here at the house, you could hear me go, "Oh, that's it." I mean, it was you shook him, and I'm telling you, man, it's. I got Jackie Cataline with me, and I think she could vouch for this too. It's a lot different when you know somebody that's in there. And when I saw Casey, I'm like, oh, okay, this is one of his fighters that he coaches. He's going to know what to do when he gets on the ground. This might be a different, because I think it was like a 40-1 underdog that you were. And I was like, I
was a plus 700. Yeah, I think it went all the way up to like plus 700. I'm like, oh my God. And we were close. We were pretty close in a couple of things, but like, like my body I felt I was ready, but my body wasn't able to recover as well. 17 pounds in 20 hours, it's a crazy cut.
Yeah. Well, when I was watching that fight, and then after everything was over, I immediately text Casey and I said, "Hey man, that kid came to fight." And I could tell that guy was like, man, your opponent was like, dude, that was no walk in the park. That dude. But it reminded me, Dan Gable, who was the legendary coach of Iowa, I watched his documentary, and he said, you know what, man, I tell my guys, I don't care if you win or lose. I just want that opponent to say, I never want to wrestle that guy again. And that just kept coming to my mind. Just seeing him, I think he was in his mind going, man, I want to go up against this guy again, because you could tell you had answers for a lot of stuff. He's just not lucky, but, that he had the takedown and was closing the distance and was able to keep it close, or whatever. So after everything's over, do you? Because you seemed like I'm not gonna say you didn't take a lot of punishment, because you did take a few shots or whatever, but you looked really good after the fight. Smiling and talking. Good. So when you get back to the dressing room, do you automatically say, hey guys, I feel good. Let's work on something else, or do you talk to Sean Shelby and say, hey look man, a couple of weeks I might be ready, or how does all that work after that? Or you just leave it up to your manager?
I leave it up to my management. I think we're talking about maybe fighting again in August. UFC is going to Fight Island next month, all July, and then in August they're coming back to Vegas. So we're already back in camp, getting ready for whoever we decide to fight next. And hopefully, I'm thinking at the end of August, mid to the end of August. I want to get back in there. We'll talk to my management. I feel good. Like my legs are a little sore from the fight. You kick a couple times, you're going to be sore. But overall, I have no major injuries. My face looks good. Body feels great. No, nothing broken, nothing hurt. Other than maybe a week off. A week or two. Yeah, I say a week. But I'm still training though. Like literally on this coming Monday, Joe Benavidez was. We drill in the mornings at 9 a.m. I showed up at 9 a.m. practice. Because I know Joe B has his title fight coming up, and I'm like, hey, Joe B needs his partner. I'm coming in, Like these are my brothers. We go in there, we fight together, and we make each other better. And like I know that he's gonna get ready for his world title fight, so I'm like, hey, I'm gonna show up. So or not, I'm going in there. And then right away after we drilled, I ended up heading over to the UFC PI, and then Heather, Tara, and all the guys over there just so good care of me. They got me on a new nutrition plan. They're taking care of all the bumps and bruises, doing PT. I'm working with Bo with my strength conditioning program now. I'm so ecstatic now that I'm in the UFC and I'm able to utilize all the benefits that comes with it.
Well, see, I'm sorry, real quick for the people listeners, you're at WrestleBoss with Favi Chulo. I got Jackie Cataline with me, and we're talking to Gustavo Lopez, talking a little bit about the fight that he had a couple of weeks ago, and, taking minimal damage and being able to get back into camp right after, or just at least training and getting ready for it. A lot of people that I've had on here in the last couple shows, does it make a big difference with no crowd or whatever? Because some guys are like, dude, it feels like you're just going to go spar and it takes a lot off you. And then something's like a little weird because, the crowd can get you pumped up and get the adrenaline going. Did it make any sort of difference, or once you're there, you're just focused?
I think I'm just focused to the fight. I fought with big crowds before, realized I was a world champion for Combate America.
Yes.
So I've been in big fights. I've been in main events. I've been up in the spotlight. I've done big things. So going in here and not having no crowd, it kind of just let me focus on the fight.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens when I fight again in the UFC and there is a crowd. We'll see how I act from it. But I don't think it's going to be that much of a difference. We're going to go in there. We're going to, I have great coaches. I'm literally here at 10 Planet downtown and in Las Vegas with Coach Casey.
Yeah.
They just got done with their class. I just came out to help to support, talk to the guys. I feel like I'm one of the guys that they look up to and be like, damn, if one of our boys is made it up there because of hard work, we need hard work. So I would come in here and tell the guys, hey, listen to our coaches because, Casey, Coach Eddie, everybody at Extreme Couture, everybody here at 10 Planet, we have a system that works. You put in the work, and results happen. So, we lost that fight, but I feel like my stock went up so much to how much heart I put into it, and I wasn't gonna go in there and give up. There was an incident during the fight that he caught me in a close armbar, and in my mind, I'm like, break it. I'm not gonna give up. We're gonna fight through it. I'm gonna let this arm snap, and so when I get out of this, I'm gonna hit you with it. I'm we're in the whole world.
If you're listening to this and you haven't visited luchacentral.com, it's time to do it. Luchacentral.com is the online home for Lucha Libre, where you can get all of the top news in English and in Spanish. Find the best curated video content and original content not seen anywhere else. Find when Lucha Libre events would be happening in your area. Find photo galleries from top photographers covering Lucha Libre around the world. From weekly polls to annual awards. Seen and read by top executives in all of the major Lucha Libre promotions across the globe. And on top of that, it's free. LuchaCentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre.